step is probably to create your Google form and decide what it is you want to observe. So as a PE teacher, I've just decided, made a quick example here, that I'm going to create a form to observe students participating in badminton, and I'm going to structure it in a way so that as they're participating and I complete the form quickly, they're going to get an email from me during the lesson, so at the conclusion of the lesson they can go check their email and they'll see whatever scores, whatever feedback I've left them for the lesson. Of course, I mean, giving them more instant feedback it can be a better option, but as a PE teacher sometimes I don't like to interrupt kind of the natural play that happens, yet I still want kids to have a record of how they've performed in the day and what they need to do going forward. So the first part is you're going to select a drop-down question here. Okay, and I just call this one select student, and you're going to have to put the students in with their email first. So this can be a bit time-consuming. So my suggestion to you is on your very first day of school, have kids fill out a spreadsheet and put their emails and their names in this exact format. And the reason why is because when we run the add-on on the spreadsheet, it's going to recognize whatever comes first. And in this case, what comes first is the email. So it will be able to send the email directly to the student. If you do it in this way, if I was to go Ty Riddick and then my email in brackets, it wouldn't work. Okay, so you're just going to pick example 52 at school.edu.ca or whatever it is, and in brackets the student name. You don't have to put the student name if the email address is already self-explanatory, but for a lot of my kids that I teach, their email addresses are just numbers or their initials. I don't always know exactly whose email address that is. So once you fill it out, again, it can be a bit time consuming, but once you've done it once, you can continue to repeat that. So then you can decide whatever you want to put feedback on. So there's a couple, you can structure this however you want. Again, I've done this super quickly, so I've decided I'm going to observe during gameplay a drop shot, a clear shot, how well they're returning to recovery position, and their variation. The letters and the numbers, so B1 or B2, are just the standards that they're attributed to, and that's just going to make it easier for me when I go and look at the data on the spreadsheet later in the semester, later in the unit. I have a record of exactly how I assess students on each standard within that unit. Okay, and the next steps, again, this is here. It's just a checkbox question. And you can leave, if you have kind of canned responses or feedback that you feel like you give all the time, you can just put 5, 10 options here, or an other option, you can type something custom, and you just click off as you go. So I'm going to make all of these required questions. Again, you don't have to, but it's easier that way to remind you, to complete the full form. So yeah, that's basically creating your form. There's different types of questions that you can use. I'll show you another example towards the end of one that I use the most. But it's pretty simple. Yeah, the next step will be going to the responses. If you click on responses, we're going to open a spreadsheet and we're going to run the add-on in there. Yeah, so the second step is to set up your spreadsheet to automatically send an email every time the form is submitted. So you can see I've already used it here, but basically the add-on that you can go to Get Add-ons. And you're going to look for one here. It's called Formule. It's with Formule. You can launch that, and it'll take some time to load. You'll have to approve it, but then it's going to come up looking something like this. So the source sheet, again, I only have one on here. Form responses 1, but if you titled your sheet something else, you just select that sheet. So the form trigger is when do you want Formule to run. And I'm going to have it run on every time the form is submitted. So literally every time you hit the submit button on your form, it's going to send it out. So these are optional. If you want a case number or an edit URL for each submission, you can do that. I might just put a case number right now. Yeah, this usually happens because the form hasn't been submitted yet, but that's okay. You just go back and reopen it again, and then it should be fine. So yeah, until the form is submitted, that might come up. You'll see they started adding a column on the right side of your spreadsheet for the case number. So that's all the same that we already chose. So now we're going to set the number of templates. So you can have different templates for different send conditions. But for right now, I just want to send all the time, so I can have it send for all rows. Template 1, again, I'm only going to have one template probably on this sheet, so I'm just going to call this one badminton feedback. And I'm going to save those settings. And next, I'm going to edit the template. Yep, so this is where you build the template. This is what the email that your students will get will actually look like. So in the 2, that's where we put the select student. So again, by putting the student email first when we created the form, right here, this is the email that select student's going to pick up. So every time you select a student, that's who it's going to send the email to. So the subject, I'm just going to call it badminton lesson feedback, and I just might put, hey, here is some feedback from today's badminton lesson. And again, it could be probably more descriptive than this. And then you're just going to select whatever you want. So all the merge tags are here. You're just going to go drop shot, go another one, clear, returning to ready position, or returning to recovery position, shot variation, and next steps. And then you might just put, if you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Sincerely, Mr. Riddick. Beautiful. So that's good. You can add other things like a case number, current date, but live form URL. But I think everything's pretty good. So you can preview and send all. It won't actually send anything, well, because I haven't filled in the form yet. Boom. Yeah, so that's pretty much done. So we can move on to kind of setting it up for the third and final step. So this third step is not completely necessary, but as a PE teacher, I mean, I'm not going to be sitting around and not to be sitting at my desk too often. I don't even have a desk, and I don't want to be walking around class trying to manage holding a laptop. So I wanted something that I could do digitally, but also be quite mobile with. So this is what my iPad screen looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Google Drive app. I'm going to find the form that we were making. I'm going to let it load up, and I'm going to just hit the preview, which is a little eye there, and this is going to give me kind of a live look at my form. From here, I'm going to click this little top arrow, whatever that thing is, and I'm going to add this link to my home screen. Okay, once I add that, it's going to appear almost as an app. As you can see, I've got a bunch of different ones that I use for different units. It's going to appear almost as an app on your iPad homepage. So now once we click that, it's going to open right to where we want it to go, and now I can begin my assessment. So I'll be holding this iPad in my hand and observing at the same time. So I'm going to select my student right now, which is I'm the only student in the class, and I'm going to say, I'm not a great badminton player. I've got a little bit of strength, but I'm kind of lazy. But hey, I'm smart enough to vary my shots every once in a while. I should probably focus on returning to the center of the court. Seems pretty good. And I'm going to hit submit. Okay, if I wanted, then I would submit another response, possibly for another student, and I would just repeat. So once you get the hang of it, it's just click, 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 and it goes quite quickly. So as you can see, this is what the email will look like. This one's obviously from myself. They give me some feedback on today's badminton lesson. So this one's obviously quite basic. It took me maybe 30 seconds to make that badminton form. But still, I think in this way, with only a few clicks, every kid is getting some feedback that they can review, a little more transparency from the teacher in terms of what they are observing, and some next steps they can focus on next class. Again, there's a lot more that you can do with this, but again, giving more detailed rubric qualifications. But yeah, so again, the student always has a record of what feedback they received and when, as long as they check their email. This is kind of what the teacher view looks like. So it gives you a timestamp, the student, the grade, again, a record of all the feedback that was sent, which I guess is good. So yeah, that's about it. This is another example, a little more complete than that badminton one we just whipped together. So removed all the student names, but this one is one we use later in our swimming unit, so the kids get some feedback. They do a big kind of medley of swimming strokes. We kind of put it all together and give them a grade on it. Then they're able to choose which strokes they want to focus on for improvement. We already have linked into the form the exemplars, which include the performance cues of exactly what we're looking for. And again, the letters A3, A2 all relate to the standards that we're looking for. So again, it's kind of neat and tidy, and then both myself and the students have a record of the assessment.